News coming out of Tel Aviv and Ankara today is nothing short of earth-shattering, folks. We are witnessing the potential endgame for a man who has spent his entire political life evading accountability. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of the occupation entity, is now effectively a hunted man. After months of brutal warfare that the world has rightfully labeled a genocide, after decimating Gaza and turning it into an open-air graveyard for over 40,000 souls, after systematically dismantling international law and spitting in the face of global public opinion, the walls are finally closing in on him.
Fair use, fair use.
But this isn't just about one man's legal troubles. This is about the crumbling facade of Western hypocrisy and the rise of a new global justice paradigm. Turkey, a NATO member with a sophisticated intelligence apparatus and a fierce historical memory inherited from the Ottoman Empire, has declared that enough is enough, issuing a fresh arrest warrant for Netanyahu on charges of genocide and crimes against humanity, effectively trapping him not just in Europe, but across the entire globe. This development fundamentally changes the equation. For months, Netanyahu and his extremist cabinet believed they were untouchable. They laughed in the face of the International Criminal Court's warrant, knowing that the so-called democracies of the West, the United States, the UK, France, and Germany, would shield them. They watched as ICC prosecutor Karim Khan was railroaded out of his job by a coordinated campaign of threats and diplomatic pressure, a campaign that UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese rightly noted lines up neatly with the fight to neutralize Netanyahu's warrant. They stalked and intimidated anti-Israel lawyers, silenced dissenting voices, and even removed the man who dared to issue the warrant in the first place. But the hubris of the occupation regime has finally met its match in the form of Turkish justice. Turkey is not a European country that can be browbeaten by American pressure or Israeli lobbying. It is a regional power with a legal system that operates with a profound sense of justice, and its intelligence agency, the MIT, possesses the reach and capability to make this arrest warrant a reality, outsmarting even the vaunted Mossad. And if you are watching this and you believe in justice, in the sanctity of... What about this Turkish warrant? Because this is where the game changes entirely. You have to understand the depth and the reach of the Turkish criminal justice system and its intelligence capabilities. On July 14th, 2026, an Istanbul court issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and another occupation official named Afek Moskovich on charges of genocide. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture. Turkish Justice Minister Akin Gürlük followed up on August 21st by formally petitioning Interpol for a red notice against Netanyahu. The charges are staggering: crimes against humanity, genocide, aggravated deprivation of liberty, intentional injury, torture, destruction of property, aggravated robbery, and even hijacking of transportation. All of this stems from the occupation's armed attack on the global Sumud flotilla in international waters, a flotilla carrying 430 activists and humanitarian aid to the besieged Gaza Strip. Now, here's where the intelligence and operational capabilities of Turkey come into play. Interpol red notices are requests to police forces worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition. Because Turkey is a sovereign nation with a highly capable intelligence agency, the MIT, that is active across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond, Netanyahu can no longer travel freely. This is a trap that extends far beyond Turkish borders.
This is a trap. Shalom, call halal Yahweh Shemel Shabbat Shemakah Kadash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops, a great millstone, even the elders that gave before them that taught us his truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, hopefully, like tabernacle David, the elder Yahshua, back with the World War III daily update. Shalom and salutations to you all. So this is huge, okay, because this dude has been allowed to do what the hell he wants. But what do we see going on? Netanyahu's next target is what? Turkey. Right? So with all the dirt that Turkey's been doing with Israel, Israel is like, okay, now that we have Iran on the ropes, which they don't. Who's next in line? And Erdogan knows, so Erdogan is making his move. Okay? Been playing both sides, sitting on the fence now. Now the move is being made. And how do we know what move he's making? Ezekiel 37. Let's get that real quick. Let some more of that play. All right, this is the move that Erdogan is making. Let's get a Easy E 37. Just real quick, I'm going to point it out. Okay, Togarmah or Togarmah, right? Syria. Where we at? Oh, that's bones. That's dry bones. Slovakia, 38. There's Iran. Ethiopia, Libya with them. Who's Gomer? Turkey. And all his bands, the house of Syria. Togarmah. Togarmah. The North Quarters, all of his bands, and many people with it. China, North Korea, India, or Pakistan. India is with U.S. and Pakistan is with them. If I'm not mistaken, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guard unto them. So we understand Syria, Turkey, Iran, Northern Africa, Russia, okay? So that you understand. Now, let's let this guy continue to talk. So we see Turkey making their move. To do what? Get in this alliance, okay? They've been in it, but now everybody is choosing sides. Okay, everybody being forced to make a choice. Turkey's been playing both sides. Israel is going after Turkey now. Let's take a look at that real quick. Then we'll go back to open-minded thinker. Let's see either Ethiopia over here, right? We did this the other day. Here's Ethiopia, and Libya. But yeah, right there. See, everybody's choosing a side. Ethiopia is choosing to be with Russia. What bombshell? It's still in that water, but let's look at this real quick. Israel, let's type this in. Israel targets Turkey. Let's see how far back. Should be a week or two. Within the last 2 weeks. Let's see what this draws up. Israel targets Turkey. Six days. 2 days. Look at Larry Johnson. 6 days. Israel-Turkey tension. Where is this coming from? Okay. Israel is starting it. One day, serious showdown. Why are these names? There's Togarmah. There go Togarmah. Israel versus Turkey 1 day ago. Okay. That's why Erdogan is saying, "Oh, we got to get this guy, this international war criminal, right? Netanyahu." As far back as 5 months, Tucker reveals America's next move and Israel's next target, Turkey. Tucker knew 5 months ago because he's an insider. Israel prepares for doomed war against Turkey a year ago. CJ. 4 days. Israel targets Syrian base over fears of Turkish enrichment. So they're going heads up. Okay? Whoever Babylon the Great, America is attacking is who Netanyahu told them to. I want you to go into Iraq. That's where it started. Libya, Syria. Okay? Now Turkey. Get it? Okay, so I just wanted to show that real quick. 3 days. This is Israel going after Turkey. Israel blames Turkey. So now what is Turkey doing? Let's see. Now, back to open-minded. Now, understand what is Turkey.
Any state actor that has the capability to outmaneuver Mossad's security details can now legally detain Netanyahu and hand him over to Turkey. This effectively makes the entire European continent and significant parts of Asia and Africa a no-go zone for the war criminal.
So what do we see? Okay? They're going straight after the heads. They're going straight after the families of their heads. What's going on with Barron? They just put a how many? Some millions or some billions on Barron Trump's head. Quickly, let's see. Israel targets Turkey. Let's see. Iran. Bounty on Barron Trump. So they're going after the heads, right? Who killed? They killed the Ayatollah. Who came in his place? His son. Now they got a hit on him. Some family gangbanging. There's some gangbanging going on. Iran bounty on Barron Trump, 10 million. Iran offers, 1 day ago, Iran offers 10 million bounty. So you see where it's going. I don't understand this. Iran puts it, well, what'd you do? You killed the Ayatollah. You killed Soleimani. Right? You think they're just going to lay down? No, they got hit lists too. Where's Lindsey Graham? You understand? Where's Lindsey Graham? He was on Iran's hit list. Iran offers him. So you see where this is going. Now, sorry, BB, but we're going to offer you up to the internationals. Don't get caught lacking in the wrong country and get grabbed up. See, because anything goes now. What are we looking at? I could end it right here, but we'll listen to a little more. I'll wait. Let's listen to a little more of Open Mind. And at the end, we're at World War III. These guys can't even travel abroad no more. Fuck around and get collared. Trapped.
IT doesn't need to snatch him off the street. They merely need to wait for him to land in a country that respects international law.
See? In a country that's on our side. You understand? What do you mean our side? Well, ask Barron Trump if that fool is coming outside of the bunker right now. Okay? He went down under with Andrew Tate. Time to go down. Oh, they're grabbing me up. They're grabbing me up. Dolly Parton. That's the sign, motherfucker. Time to go down. Time to go down. Dolly Parton was the last car. Hit the bunker. Dolly the sheep.
And then Interpol's mechanisms kick in. This is a profound blow to the occupation's aura of invincibility. Now, let's be clear about the sheer hypocrisy of the Western nations, especially the United States under the Trump administration.
This woman is going to come out and say that Turkey's in bed with Netanyahu. What do you mean? What do you mean you're going to turn him in? You're in bed with him. Well, things have just changed.
Despite the ICC warrant, Netanyahu was allowed to land on American soil, to waltz into the White House and meet with Donald Trump as if he were a statesman rather than a fugitive from international justice. But this isn't just about the U.S. flouting international law. This is about the so-called democracies of Europe enabling genocide. Italy, France, and Greece, all signatories to the Rome Statute, authorized Netanyahu's travel through their airspace. They pretended that facilitating the movement of a man wanted for war crimes was somehow compatible with their legal obligations. This is the rot at the heart of the Western-led international order. Rules for thee, but not for me. When it comes to holding a Western ally accountable, the entire architecture of international criminal law is allowed to crumble.
This is the long line of niggas turning on each other. Okay? Because this is before Europe turns. Europe ain't turned yet, but we know what's going to happen to them 10 times.
UN's Francesca Albanese captured this perfectly when she said that the United States is actively contributing to make the international criminal law architecture that it has been building, from the Nuremberg trials up until now, crumble on our head. But the chickens have come home to roost because Turkey, a NATO member that has been one of the fiercest critics of the occupation's assault on Gaza, has refused to play along with this charade. They have used their membership in NATO and their status as a
They've been playing the fence now, playing both sides, right? Watch, she's going to big up them right now, but then the girl's going to come out and put them right in the bed with Netanyahu.
Power to flip the script. Even British investigative journalist Vanessa Beeley offered a better view of the situation.
Damn it. It's a lot. Bear with. Damn commercial. Check it.
Take a listen.
Well, I think the arrest warrant is related to the Global Sumud flotilla and the boarding by the Israeli occupation forces of the flotilla and then the following torture and abuse of the captives from the flotilla. But my first question would be, knowing full well the history of Israeli savagery against any kind of attempt to break the siege on Gaza, why didn't Turkey send any kind of naval protection for the flotilla when they knew perfectly well that it was heading into international waters where Israel again would flaunt international law and board the boats? That's number one. Number two, I think what we're seeing right now, let's go back also not only to what happened in Gaza, but also what happened in Syria and the collaboration between Israel and Turkey in the downfall of Syria, of course, alongside the Zionist Arab Gulf states and the entire Western neocolonialist alliance. But for example, in November, just prior to the attack by Al Qaeda, or as it's now known, HTS, they put in power government in Syria. There was a meeting between.
Sorry, you said November. I assume you're referring to
November 2024. Yes,
right,
sorry,
right.
My mistake.
Okay.
There was a secret meeting between Ronan Bar of Shin Bet. He was the head of Shin Bet then, and Ibrahim Kalin, the head of the Internal National Security Intelligence Forces in Turkey itself. Shortly after that, of course, we know the history. Jolani led an attack against, first of all, Aleppo, and then rapidly moved down to the south of the Syrian territory and effectively took control of Damascus. And what we've been seeing, in my opinion, is this kind of kabuki theater between Israel and Turkey as to who has control of what spheres of influence within Syria itself. And this has been a kind of ongoing dialogue between the two. There have been previous attacks on Turkish installations and attempts to expand their bases into central Syria just after the fall of Damascus. So this was, I think, in 2025. They tried to establish something in Palmyra and in the former T4 airbase, and Israel bombed it. Right now, we have this story of Turkey apparently trying to establish some kind of airbase and military position at the Abu Duhur airbase, which was taken over by the terrorist forces and then retaken by the Syrian Arab Army a number of times during the 14-year regime change war that was waged against Syria. And during those battles for the airport, the runway had been very badly damaged. It was then repaired once Jolani was put in power. But the interesting thing is, Dimitri, there were 8 airstrikes on this airbase, apparently targeting the runway, so one presumes re-damaging the runway and making it impossible to use, and hitting warehouses that Israel claimed contained weapons and potentially air defense, and that Turkey was intending to enable Jolani to establish an air force and an air defense base at Abu Duhur. But there were no casualties. So if the Turkish were building up such a contingent of military personnel alongside Jolani and bringing in the equipment that would be required to establish a proper working airbase, which would, one presumes, would also include planes, the fact that there were 0 casualties means to me that this was a cosmetic bombing raid. Now, what do I actually think is going on? I think at the moment there is huge pressure on Jolani to normalize with Israel. And I think the threat of there being any kind of conflict between Israel and Turkey on Syrian soil is about the last thing that Jolani needs right now. So both countries at the moment are bringing pressure to bear on Jolani to accept some kind of partitioning in Syria, which would, in my opinion, be Israel in the south. That has been made very clear through the negotiations between Assad al-Shaibani, the foreign minister, and representatives of the Zionist genocidal regime for some time now, that they want a buffer zone in the south. Of course, we know this has been Israel's intention for decades, to take control of southern Syria in order to be able to establish the David's corridor, which would stretch up the eastern flank of Syria to the Euphrates in Iraq eventually. And so it's been very clear from the beginning, whether you look at Greater Israel, the map of Greater Israel, or the Oded Yinon plan, this has been extremely clear. But there is, to some degree, a conflict with Turkey, because Turkey wants to maintain the territorial integrity of Syria, and it wants control of Syria as a protectorate of Turkey. That's effective.
And the reason why they're going to hold for Turkey is because if Syria, reason Turkey is going to hold out for Syria, because if Syria falls, Turkey is next, and they understand that. So who's going to win? Just go back to 38. Right? Whose side is Syria on? Syria is with Turkey. So Israel's going to lose that. Come back here. Okay. That's so we know the next piece of big war is going to be over Syria between Turkey and the Greater Israel Project. See, the Turkey is like this. Oh, you finna eventually you're going to get up here, called the Greater Israel Project, right? That's what we see happen. They won't stop taking land until they've had enough, or leave any gleaning grapes. Okay, so I mean, we're watching prophecy take place or take shape. But the thing is that we want things to happen overnight, and because we know the outcome. What we have to do is we have to be patient as these things play out. She's explaining this tit for tat thing that might take the next couple of months to play out. Okay? Or, I mean, we don't know, right, for sure, but as much as we want these things to happen tomorrow, it might take a while. So we have to be patient, right? Because everything's already written out and everything's going to happen in the time that it was written. We're the ones that have to be patient, right? So while we're being patient, we're watching, we're observing. And when a prophecy comes to pass, you mark that one off and look forward to the next one. All right. So anyway, with that, all of it spells up to, see, that's why it says this, coming shortly. Why is it coming shortly? Because there's a little time left, and you got to be patient. Rev 11:14. You got to be patient. Second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. It's coming quick, but not immediately, right? Why? Because things have to play out in their time. And if you listen to her, right, go back and forth as to why this and how Jelani was placed in there, and then he's basically a pawn, right? That they stuck him in there until they have to deal with this situation. And now we're here. They stuck him in there until after the little Iran situation, right, was dealt with, and then after that, then they're back on their seven country tour, right? What's his name? McClintock, the general. I forget his name. Anyway, um, uh, we already know what's going to happen. We're just watching. You got to be patient, right? And everything is playing out the way that it's supposed to go. All right. That's why you got to have endurance, right? If you're going to endure to the end, you got to have patience, and uh, this is where we uh, perfect patience. Situations like this, okay? Things might seem a little scary the longer they take, but that's the Most High, right? Preparing you, all right? And you're supposed to have no fear, so start working on that. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close. This thing's coming, right? So we'll just continue to watch until then. We pray that the elect ratified you, brothers and sisters, to Shalom.